Hi, welcome to MACSGATE. We are learning DBMS subject. Under DBMS subject, in today's session, we are going to start a new chapter called ER model, Entity Relationship Model. And in this session, I am going to give introduction about ER model and what are the components in ER model. So let us start the session. Before going to ER model, first let me give brief idea about database design process. Whenever we want to develop a project which deals with a database, what are the steps we need to follow to design that particular project? So let me discuss all these steps one by one. The first one is requirement analysis. So we need to identify what are the functionalities we need to do. For that functionalities, what are the objects I need to consider? Like that, I need to gather all the requirements by discussing with our clients. That is the first step we are having. The second step is conceptual database design. So this is what we are calling as ER model. So in this, we represent the data, that is the collection of all objects, what we need to be in our database. We represent in terms of using graphs. In general, they are called ER diagrams. So in this, we will represent all that objects and the relationship between those objects. That is conceptual database design. After ER diagrams are ready, then we go for logical database design. In this is we have already studied, which is called RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. So relational database. So this we define, sir. That means we will define the tables. All the objects we define in terms of tables or relations. Then schema refinement. Once the tables are ready, we will apply normalization techniques. Why we need to apply normalization techniques, sir? The main one is to avoid redundancy. The second one is to eliminate anomalies, which might be caused by insertion, deletion, updation. So that is the main aim of normalization, which is also called schema refinement. So what is schema refinement step, sir? That is normalization. Then the next one is physical database design. So in this, we will choose the data structures and indexing techniques, how to store the database in our secondary storage. So this is the concept which deals with files and indexing. What are the data structures I need to consider for my database? And the last one is application and security design. So this is front end, sir. This is not the part which we are discussing in our database management system. Now, in this session, we are going to discuss about conceptual database design. So we need to describe all the objects and the relationships between the objects. For a given object, what are the characteristics we need to consider? So the entire requirement we represent in terms of diagrams, which is called ER diagrams, entity relationship diagrams. So let us discuss that ER diagrams. Sorry, sir. So what are the main components of ER diagrams? The first one is entity. Sir, entity in simple language, it is the real world object. The real world object. Suppose I am going to design a project which deals with students of a particular university. Students of a particular university. Then can you give the examples of entities or the objects you are interested? Sir, student is the first object which I am interested. And since I am considering university, there might be courses, and we will have faculty. We will have non-teaching staff. Instead of that one, let me write as simply staff. Like that, we have so many objects. Sir, whenever I say student, it is not only one, sir. My intention is I am going to consider all the possible students of the university. So that is about entity. Whenever it is entity in ER diagram notation, we represent it by rectangles. So student is a entity. If you are familiar with object-oriented concepts, then entity is a class. It's a blueprint, sir. So you can say it is a class with respect to in Woob's concepts. So it's a blueprint. In that, I not given the details of any student. I am saying that I am going to consider the students. That's it. So that is about entity, which is our first component. Every entity will be represented by rectangles. Fine, sir. So this is our first component. The second component is attribute. Whenever I am considering a student, what are the characteristics or properties you are interested? Suppose my application, the aim is to provide placements. Then what are the properties or characteristics you consider? Most probably we consider the percentages and the number of contexts the student participated, the number of courses what he learned, backlogs. Like that we will consider all academic details. I don't need any personal details of students like his address, mail ID, Facebook, all those things. So depending on the project, for the selected object, we will decide the list of properties we are going to consider that particular object. So attribute is a property of an object. Instead of property, you can use another term, characteristic. Sir, we don't consider all the possible characteristics. We consider the characteristics of our interest. So it is the property of an object. Suppose I have a student. For student, I want to consider the attributes rule number because I want to communicate with the student in a particular class. Then I need his name. I need his percentage. Like that, I may need some characteristics of the particular student. That means whenever a new student comes to me, I will ask only three details. What is our rule number? What is our name? What is our percent? So in my point of view, whenever I say student, he need to have all these three qualities. He may have some other qualities, but I don't mind or I don't consider, right? So whenever it is an attribute, how to represent in ER diagrams? So whenever it is a student and the attributes, generally all the attributes are related with a particular entity or object. So this is my student. For this student, how many you are considering, sir? You are considering rule number, name, percentage. In general, the attributes are denoted by vowels. Like this, we denote it by vowels. All these vowels or properties are related to which objects are? They are related to student. So that is about attributes are our second component. So every attribute is denoted by vowel. Hope you understood it. So this is our second component. What is our third component, sir? Relationship. What is the relationship? Simply you can say the connection between two objects. the connection between two objects. What does it mean? Suppose I have two objects which are student. This is my first object, and let us represent it by rectangle. And the second object which I am going to consider is course. This is the second one. Now the question is, what is the connection between these two, sir? Or what is the relation between these two? Sir, I am not using the word relation. Why? Because I don't want to confuse you between the relation in RDBMS and the relation here. Okay, just I am saying simply connection. Generally that connection here it is called relationship. Okay, not the relation. Because in DBMS terminology, relation means table. Relationship, that is connection between two different entities. Sir, maybe same also. So two entities. So generally this student joins this course or student studies this course. Okay. So student joins a particular course. Okay. Whenever it is a relationship, generally we denote it by diamond. Right, sir? So student joins the course. So this is diamond, sir. Instead of diamond, you can say simply rhombus also, sir. That depends on our convenience. So these are the three main components of the AR diagrams. Okay, we need to know at least these three. What are the objects I need to consider? What are the properties of each and every object in the database? And what is the connection between the objects? If you are very clear about these three details, the database design is very clear and easy. Let me give one more example to describe these three components. Suppose I am considering the same university example, sir. There I am considering employees. This is my object or simply entity. And one more I am considering department. So these are the two objects I am having in my database. Now before going to that one, in our point of view, what is meant by employee? Or what are the characteristics you are going to consider for the employee? Sir, every employee will have some ID. Whenever you joins in any department, surely they will provide one ID. Let us assume it is employee ID. Then the employee might have some name. So of course he will have, sir, it's not might. So employee name. Okay. Then I might consider salary. Sir, you may consider so many attributes. For simplicity, I am considering only these three. Whenever coming to department, what you can consider, sir? At least I should know what is department name. That may be CSE, that may be ECE, that may be EEE, mechanical and everything. Then after department name, at least I should know who is the HOD. So these are the two characteristics I am going to consider. Right? Now the question is, what is the relation between these two? Or what is the connection between these two? Sir, every employee will work in some department. Right? So this employee works in this department. Hope you understood it, sir. So this is about a simple example of AR diagram where you consider three components: entity, attribute, relationship. Hope you understood it. Right, sir? Now let me give one major important point regarding this terminology. 1 minute, sir. I used the terms entity, attribute, relationship. Okay, instead of this one, not instead of this one, sir, we have almost similar terminologies. Entity set, attribute set, relationship set. The first point is there any major difference between these two? Yes. Sir, entity, object, attribute, relationship, all these are blueprints. All these are blueprints. Okay, or you are giving the skeleton. We don't have any particular student, we don't have any particular department, everything. So all these are blueprints. In our OOPS concepts, you can say it is simply a class, but I not considered any objects. Whenever you consider all the possible objects or the set of all objects which you are having, so this is the set of all objects or the values. Okay, simply let us consider the set of all objects, or you can say these are real entities. There you are saying simply entity, it's a blueprint, but you consider some examples, right? Let me give a small example. Suppose I consider student. Sir, student is a generic term to denote the person who is studying in a university. Then what is entity set? Suppose I am considering some students who is Sudhakar, Sita, Ram, like that. Then this collection is called entity set. So entity is a blueprint. Entity set is a collection of real objects. Similarly, attributes also. Suppose I am considering student ID. For the same student, I have rule number. I have name. Then what is attribute set? Rule number is an attribute, sir. Okay. Suppose Sudhakar is having rule number 11, Sita is having 22, Ram is having 33. So this is the attribute set example. Of course, this is also an attribute set of example. So that is about this one, sir. Right? Generally, entity set means suppose you have considered only these, right? So rule number, name. Whenever you give this application, people will write like this: 11 Sudha, 22 Sita, 33 Ram. Sir, these rows, that is the records, are called entity set. If I consider only one attribute, that is called attribute set. Okay. Similarly, relationship. Okay, let me directly frame it, sir. Suppose this student joins in some course. Suppose I have only one course name, course attribute is course name. Then the relationship is joins. Sir, joins is a generic term. Then what are the relationship sets? Suppose Sudha joins BTech. This is my first relationship, real time. Then suppose Sita joins BCA. Similarly, suppose Ram joins BTech. So this is called relationship sets. So entity, attribute, relationship, all these are generic terms. If I consider that values, then they are called entity set, attribute set, relationship set. But generally people will use both terms simultaneously because the concept is same, right? Now, let us discuss what are the types of attributes. Before going to types of attributes, what is attributes are? As I said, it is a property or characteristics of entity. Property or characteristic of entity. So let me discuss different types of attributes. The first one is simple attribute and composite attribute. Let me give a small example to explain these two, sir. Simple attribute, composite attribute. Suppose I consider the same example student. For the student, suppose I consider the attribute rule number. And I consider one more attribute which is name. Sir, you may consider so many, but these two are enough. When coming to rule number, I cannot further divide the rule number into something like class number, section number and everything. Rule number is a single piece of information. But when coming to name, some applications will divide further. What is surname? What is first name? What is last name? So this is an example. The first one is an example of simple attribute. Rule number is a simple attribute because it cannot be divided further. Composite attribute. Name is a best example of the composite attribute. Okay. Instead of that one, suppose I am considering address. Address also can be further divided, sir. I can divide into door number, street, city, state, pin code. Right? So when you can divide the attribute further, then it is called composite attribute. When you cannot divide, then it is called simple attribute. Hope you understood these two. The next one is single valued attribute, multi-valued attribute. Single valued attribute means every record will have only one value, sir. The name says that only one value. Multi-values. Let me give it, sir. Suppose I consider the same example student. I consider the same example student. Let us consider the first attribute is rule number, or let us consider simply age. Okay. The second one, let me consider mobile number, and let us consider one more which is name. So let us assume we are considering only name. Okay, full name N Sudhakar Reddy or S Sita Devi, like that. Okay, fine. Now look at this, sir. Suppose whenever I consider any student, this is my table, sir, and here I have headings: age, name, mobile number. Now the first student came to the class. I asked what is his age. He will tell, sir, I am 18 years old. Fine. What is your name? My name is Sudha. What is your mobile number? Then he will ask, sir, personal or official or home? So a student might have so many phone numbers. So he may have 99 so and so, 77 so and so. So here mobile number is having multi values. But when coming to age, we will have only one age, unless or until we are cine heroines. Okay. So that is about single valued and multi valued attributes. Hope you understood it. The next one is derived attribute. What is derived attribute? The best example I will give, sir. Sir, when you are filling some online applications for job, when you are filling some online applications job, generally there is a tab like date of birth. Please enter your date of birth. Here there is one more tab which is age. Okay. Whenever I enter this date of birth, automatically this will be displayed. Am I right, sir? Whenever you enter this one, automatically this will be displayed. This is an example of a derived attribute. It was derived from date of birth. So age is derived from date of birth. Not only from one attribute, sir. Sometimes we may have like this. Suppose they are asking about the details of SSC. So the application might be like this. Details of SSC. So there we will have a column total marks. Then we will have obtained marks. Then we are having percentage. Most of the applications, whenever I fill total marks and obtained marks, this will be automatically filled. Am I right, sir? Hope you might have experience about these two, at least one of these two, right? So here this percentage, this percentage is derived from total marks, obtained marks. So this is an example of a derived attribute. Hope you got it, sir. The next one is descriptive attribute. Descriptive attribute. Okay. First, let me give the definition, sir, so that you can imagine what I am going to give an example. Attribute of a relationship. Sir, generally you consider the properties or characteristics of entities. Sometimes the relationships also will have entities. Sometimes the relationships also will have entities. Okay. So what is that? For example, let us consider I am having employee and I am having department. Sir, most of the examples we are considering with respect to study only. So that we'll have this one. So head of the department, this is my relationship. Okay. For employee, we may have some details, sir. For department, we may have some details. We don't consider all those things. Whenever you consider this one, suppose my HOD is Sudhakar. Sudhakar is HOD in present, at present. Before Sudhakar, there may be another HOD. Sudhakar is not permanent in that post. So after Sudhakar, some Sita will come as HOD. So compulsorily, whenever you say employee is the HOD of so-and-so department, from which date? From which date? To which date? Or you can say duration. You can say since. So like that. So Sudhakar is HOD of CSC department from 2002 to 2020. Like that you can give, sir. So these two attributes, what are the attributes, sir? From, comma, to. These two are examples of descriptive attributes. Hope you understood it. These two are examples of descriptive attributes. Now let's go to the next one. Complex attribute. What is complex attribute? This we already discussed, sir. Either it is a composite attribute. Whenever I say it is a composite attribute, either it is a composite attribute or it is a multi-valued attribute. It is a multi-valued attribute. So that is about complex attribute. Then key attribute. Sir, keys we have seen so many times. Let me write the definition or recall it. Attribute with which we can uniquely identify a record. With which you can identify a record. For example, if I consider student, whenever I consider a student, the student might have so many, sir. Rule number, name, percentage. Sir, suppose I went to a class and asked who is Sita, please raise your hand. Then there is a possibility that 2 students or 3 students will raise, sir, my name is Sita. Suppose I asked who got 90%, then there is a possibility that multiple students will respond. But in the same class, whenever I ask who is rule number 22, only one student will respond. So that is key attribute. So this is an example of a key attribute. Hope you understood, sir. So this is an example of a key attribute. Like that, the same one we have so many keys, sir. For example, for the same student in these days, so many colleges are considering Aadhaar card also. Even in the same class, of course, I cannot remember the entire Aadhaar number, sir. If I ask who is so-and-so 679265 so-and-so Aadhaar number, only one student will respond. So this is key attribute. Generally, when we are having multiple options for keys, we will select one of them as a primary key. That is key attribute. Then partial key attribute. Sir, this we study in weak attributes. Okay, I will discuss weak entities and strong entities after a few minutes. So we will discuss it, sir. And before going to that one, let me give the symbols. As we know, every attribute, how to represent the attribute, sir? Generally, attribute is represented by vowel. Am I right, sir? Attribute is represented by vowel. Whenever it is a composite attribute, I already given, sir. Name is the best example. So whenever it is a composite attribute, whenever it is a composite attribute, this is the original attribute. From here, you are making further division, right? So that is about composite attribute. Whenever it is a multi-valued attribute, whenever it is a multi-valued attribute, for example, phone number is the multi-valued attribute, right? Phone number or mobile number. Okay. Whenever it is a multi-valued attribute, instead of writing single vowel, we write double vowel. double line vowel. Then when you are having derived attribute, okay, so for derived attribute, what you have considered, sir? Date of birth is the original attribute from which I derived age, right? Whenever it is a derived attribute, instead of writing this vowel, people will write dashed vowel, okay? It is also vowel only, sir, but we write dashed vowel, right, sir? Similarly, whenever it is a key attribute, actually instead of key attribute, better to say primary key, sir, because we will have only one primary key. So whenever it is a primary key attribute, for example, student, and for that I am considering the rule number. So whenever it is a primary key attribute, we denote it by underlined. So in the vowel, we denote it underlined. Hope you understood. Please go through all these symbols, sir. If you have any doubt about the types of attributes, please raise in chat box. Now let's go to the next one. Types of entities. What are the types of entities you are having? Sir, we are having only two types of entities. One is strong entity, one is weak entity. What does it mean? Simple example is having a key on its own. What does it mean? For the entity, you will consider some attributes. Out of all those attributes, one attribute can be used to identify the records uniquely. So I can say it is a key. So that means in the list of attributes what you are considering, I will have key attribute. So whenever the entity is having a key on its own, then it is called strong entity. But when coming to weak entity, it don't have a key on its own. Then what it will do? It will combine its one or more, sir. Generally one or some more, sir. Okay, let us consider one. It will combine its attribute with attribute of some other entity. Some other entity. Why it is combining, sir? To form a key or to generate a key. That means in the list of attributes what you consider for the entity, no one can be a key. That means every attribute is unable to identify the records uniquely. Okay, no one can identify the records uniquely. Let me explain these two terms with an example: strong entity and weak entity. Okay, let us consider we have a company in which we have the object employee, right? So now what we are doing is we are providing insurance. We are providing insurance to all of our employees. Whenever you provide insurance, generally people will nominate one of his relative as a nominee or dependent. So when you provide, surely every employee will give his nominee, or simply you can say dependent. That means in the case of death of employee or some unfortunate for employee, the money will go to this particular nominee or dependent. So this is what we are having, sir. This is the example we are considering. So let me write the diagram. Employee, in which I consider only two, sir. Sir, you can consider any number of attributes, but we will have to have space to write all those, sir. So let me consider only this. Okay, let me write dependent or nominee. Okay, simply let me write dependent. Okay, so this employee nominated this person. As his dependent. For dependent, generally we consider at least some details, right? Suppose I consider the details. Okay, since other is very best example, other. Okay, and let us consider simply the name. Okay, this is the story, sir. Now, when coming to employee, since the employee ID is uniquely generated for each and every employee, it is an example of a key for the entity employee. So this is very clear, sir. It is an example of a strong entity because it is having this one. Now, can I say Aadhaar identifies dependents uniquely? Might not be, sir, because let us consider the table Aadhaar name. Now, let us assume I and my wife both are working in the same company. I appointed my son whose Aadhaar number is like this and whose name is Harshit. So this is I have. Of course, my wife also appointed my son as nominee. Now, whenever I call the Aadhaar number 67249, will only one person will respond, sir? Okay, he will respond. But how to identify the details of the particular incidents? Okay, for that compulsorily, I need to identify employee ID. So if I give employee ID and Aadhaar number, then the insurance company will identify this record as okay, fine. This fellow is having so much, that amount of insurance, which is related to so and so Sudhakar. So compulsorily to identify the record of this dependent, I need to know this Aadhaar number. If I say only one Aadhaar number, the insurance company cannot identify the record uniquely because it is having two times. Then for this, I need to combine employee ID. Whenever I combine Aadhaar and employee ID, then the insurance company identifies, fine, this fellow is having some 5 lakhs insurance because of so and so employee Sudhakar, or this fellow is having some 2,50,000 insurance because of so and so employee Sita. So here it is not forming a key on its own, sir, but it will be combined with employee ID so that I can form a key. So this is an example of a weak entity. So whenever the entity don't have key on its own, then that is called weak entity. And this Aadhaar number which you are using to combine with someone else, that is called partial key. So it is a key, but it is not on its own. I need to combine it with someone else. So whenever it is a partial key, generally people will underline with dashes. So hope you understood, sir. Strong entity, weak entity, partial key. I have given the example for all the three. Hope you understood it, sir. Right? Not only this one, sir, I can give one more also. Okay. Okay, fine, sir. So because of space, It's not possible to give one more example here. So anyway, hope you understood strong entity and weak entity. So strong entity is an entity which is having a key on its own. Weak entity is an entity which don't have a key on its own. Okay. Okay, let me try, sir. Suppose I am having LIC numbers. Pays and bills. Every customer is paying bill amounts for LICs. Generally, let us assume the counter they are taking serial number or bill number. So every day they will start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on 100. The next day again they will start with 1, 2, 3, so on. When you observe in banks, they will display the tokens 1, 2, 3, so on 100. Okay, so every day they will display 1 to 100. Suppose I taken 5, bill number 5. Now the question is, bill number 5 is related to which LIC? The number will give some amount, sir. Can you identify that bill is related to which LIC? No, sir. Compulsorily that bill number I need to associate with the corresponding LIC. So I need to compulsorily associate with the corresponding LIC number. Then only I can identify the transaction uniquely. You might feel that why we need bill numbers or that serial number, sir? Directly can consider LIC number. No, sir. For the same LIC number, I may have so many bill payments. Suppose my LIC is 20,000. So I paid 10,000 in morning session. In afternoon session, I paid 5,000. And tomorrow I paid some more 5,000. So compulsorily, I need to combine this bill number. Okay, you can say simply bill number, sir. This bill number with LIC number to identify the transaction uniquely. So this is one more example of a weak entity. So anyway, LIC number details like who is nominee, who is the person paying and everything, all these LIC will have one key. So that is an example of a strong entity and it is partial key. Hope you are clear about strong entity and weak entities. Degree of a relationship. What is meant by degree of a relationship? Number of entities. Number of entities participate in a relationship. Suppose I have a relationship R. Here there are two entities which are participating. Sir, entities are we are saying, okay. So this is A, this is B. These are the two entities. Then the degree is 2 because two entities are participating. Or you can say this is student, this is course. Okay. Instead of this one, sometimes we may have A is participating in relation R and B is participating in relation R. C is also participating in the same relation. Then the degree is 3 because how many entities we are participating, sir? Total 3 entities. Okay, that is about degree of relationship. Depends on the degree of relationship, the relationships are divided into some categories. So let us discuss those things. Okay. Hope I think I given the definition here, sir. Yeah. The number of participating entities in the relationship is called degree. Okay. These are the examples, sir. Now, before going, let me give the real-time examples. Okay. What is binary relationship? Relationship with a degree 2. Relationship with a degree 2. The simple example is employee is my relation. Sorry, employee is my entity. For employee, let us consider some attributes. Employee ID, employee name, and I might want to consider salary also. Okay. Let us consider the department where he is working. Department. For department, you might consider department name and HOD. Okay. This employee works in department. Here, how many entities are participating in relationship works in, sir? So this is first employee. First one is employee, the second one is department. So that is an example of a binary. So binary is 2, sir. Relationship with 2 participating entities is binary relationship. Hope you understood it. Let's go to the next type, sir. Ternary relationship. So the same, sir. Hope you can guess it. Relationship with degree 3. Let me give a simple example which is familiar to us. Suppose student. He joins in a course. Suppose Sudhakar joins in BTech. Now the question is where he joined, which college? Which college he joined? Whether it is JN2K or JN2 Anantapur or some Siddhartha college, right? So I will consider one more attribute, which is institute. Okay, the student might have some attributes like roll number, student name. When coming to course, sir, every course will have some ID, course ID, course name. If I complete that one, how many credits I will get? That means the student, how many credits he will get. When coming to institute, every institute will have college code, sir. So what is the code? What is the college name or institute name? Where it is located, location or address. Sir, you can add so many, whether it is NBA accredited or what are the accreditations for the institute. So here, how many entities are participating in the relationship, sir? 1, 2, 3. So that is ternary relationship because the number of participating entities is 3. Hope you understood it. The next one is self-referential relationship. Some people will say simply recursive relationship. Okay, let me give the example. Suppose you are working in a software company. Not only software company, sir, you can consider any example. Okay, let me consider it. Okay, and I am considering employee. Sir, this employee needs to report his work done in that particular week to his manager, right? So every employee needs to report his work for a week or for a day to his manager. Now the question is, who is manager, sir? Manager is also an employee of the same company. So that means this fellow is reporting. This fellow is reporting. reports to whom, sir? Is he is an outsider? Manager is also an employee. So again, he will stay in this one. So like this. Actually, we don't use arrow marks, sir. For clear understanding purpose, I used it. So employee reports to employee, right? Okay, for better understanding, you can write like this. Employee reports to whom, sir? Employee only. So that relationship is participating entity is only one. So the entity is relating with itself. Hope you understood it. So for this employee, you may have so many, sir. Employee ID, name, age, salary, or cadre, like that we can have so many, sir. So it is participating with itself. So this is an example of a self-referential relationship or recursive relationship. So we have seen mainly three types of relationships, sir. Binary relationship, ternary relationship, and recursive relationship. And some people, this self-referential relationship, I think we should not use this term, sir, unary relationship, but some people might use it. The number of participating entities is only one. Only employee is participating, sir. So some people might use unary relationship, but the best term is self-referential relationship or simply recursive relationship. So these are the three types of relationships. Okay, so this is about what we have discussed. Sir, what we discussed, sir, mainly entity. In entities, the two types of entities, strong, weak, then attribute. When coming to attribute, we have seen so many, sir. Okay, in that the most important ones I am listing, sir. Of course, not only important, sir. Okay, let me continue. All are important only. Multi-valued, composite, derived, descriptive, simple, key, partial key. Since I listed multi-valued, you can list out single valued. Complex also. So these are the types of attributes we are having, sir. Then relationship. For relationship, we mainly discussed what is degree. Dependence on degree, we discussed what is binary relationship. Then ternary relationship and recursive relationship. So these are the symbols we have seen, sir. And mainly, what are the symbols, sir? Entity. Sir, I forgot to mention this, sir. Strong entity is generally rectangle, sir. Weak entity, some people will denote is like double line or bold. This I forgot, sir. Yes. So weak entity, generally either it is bold line or double line. So this is the representation of these two, sir. Attributes we have seen, sir. This is the first one. Double line where you use, sir, multi-valued. And we use this one for this one. What is that, sir? Derived attribute. And relationships. This one. But whenever it is a strong to weak entity relationship. So this is my strong, this is my weak. Sir, for understanding purpose, I am writing, sir. Okay, whenever it is weak entity, we write it. This relationship also, some people will write with a double line to indicate that it is a relationship between weak entity and strong entity. Okay, So this is about strong entities and weak entities, sir. So that is about the introduction to ER model, sir. In the next session, we will discuss about constraints in ER model, or how to represent constraints in ER model. So that is for today's session. Thank you.